In the world of football, American names are few and far between, but one stands out for his impact on Major League Soccer during its most critical years. After playing in one of the biggest leagues in Europe, he moved to managing, where he oversaw one of the biggest moments in American soccer, the signing of David Beckham. Now that the country's having its moment in the spotlight of world soccer, it's worth looking back at one of the most influential international players America ever produced, and the American legacy he left behind. This is the story of Alexi Lalas. At age 11, Alexi was something of a latecomer to soccer. But once he started, Alexi never looked back, excelling through high school where he also captained the hockey team. His performance on the ice was so impressive that he was eligible for the Ontario Hockey League, one of the most competitive junior leagues in the world. It wasn't meant to be. After finishing high school, Alexi wasn't picked in 1987, but his name would become much more prominent as a soccer player. He played for 4 seasons at college level until, at just age 21, he was picked for the national team, where he was quickly sent to Spain to compete in the 1992 Summer Olympics, where the maximum age was 23. This was Alexi's first taste of European football. The United States were paired against Italy in their first match at the legendary Barcelona home ground of Barcelona. Playing as a defender, Alexi was crucial to one of the United States' most fiercely fought Olympics to date. They lost to Italy 2-1. After a victory against Kuwait and then a draw with Poland, the team missed out on promotion to the next round by a single point. But Alexi was determined not to make it his last time experiencing the pinnacle of world football. He returned home, where he moved to California for intensive training alongside Bob McNabb. With McNabb's connections, Alexi scored a tryout with Arsenal the following year but failed to impress. However, Alexi was once again picked for the national squad, and it couldn't have happened at a better time. The United States was hosting the upcoming World Cup, the most prized trophy in international soccer. It was helping to build momentum for the sport in the country, which had, up until then, mostly remained focused on American football. With more than 500 million people watching the draw alone, and 2 billion, or over 35% of the people on the planet, tuning in for the finals, it would give players like Alexi a chance to prove themselves on the biggest soccer stage imaginable. The United States campaign got off to a good start, racking up a draw against Switzerland and a win over Colombia that was enough to advance to the knockout stages. Unfortunately, this was when they ran into Brazil, where a late goal by Babito sent the U.S. packing. Brazil would go on to be the eventual world champions. Meanwhile, Alexi had piqued the interest of European scouts. It was hard to miss him. With his long red hair and beard to match, there was no other player like him. His 1994 World Cup showing was enough to earn him a contact with Italian Serie A club Padova, where Europe would be introduced to the towering 6'3" American. Immediately, Alexi was a huge asset for Padova. Not only was his defending stabilizing for the team, but he was a good offensive player too. Despite Padova's poor form that season, Alexi scored 3 goals. One of those came against Italian Titans AC Milan, who were the defending champions 3 years running. Alexi's strong-bodied defending, which was sometimes attributed to his prior experience as a hockey player, made him a formidable opponent to face. Alexi's destiny, however, was never in Italy. After helping Padova avoid relegation, his American home came knocking. Major League Soccer, MLS, was in the process of establishing itself, getting ready for its debut season in 1996. There weren't many bigger American names in soccer to attract than Alexi Lalas. With his help, the United States could help build the MLS into a respected league. Alexi was signed with the New England Revolution, but loaned back to Padova until the league kicked off. MLS was conscious of its difficult position in capturing the sports market. Americans were not well accustomed to soccer, so the league modified rules to try to make it a more fast-paced and exciting spectacle. Penalty shootouts were enforced for any game drawn at full time. In addition, there was a countdown clock to help avoid time wasting. These strategies didn't work. Instead, they turned off traditional soccer fans while still failing to attract new fans. This was a huge loss for the league. After massive investment in rolling out new teams, modifying stadiums, and running advertising, the league lost around $250,000 in the first 5 years of operation. Former NFL executives were brought in to help turn the league around, but nothing seemed to work. Alexi, however, was one of the main attractions together with other American stars like Tony Meola and Eric Wynaldo. Alexi moved 3 times from New England to Metro Stars, Kansas City, and finally to Los Angeles Galaxy. Throughout his MLS career, he appeared in over 190 games, scoring 16 goals. Internationally, he had success too, scoring a crucial goal against Saudi Arabia in an incredible comeback from 3 goals down in 1995. But the 1998 World Cup would be his final time on the big stage. After 96 international appearances and 10 goals, Alexi Lalas' time representing the United States came to an end. But his impact on the sport was about to be much bigger. As soon as Alexi retired, he was highly sought after by MLS teams. His experience as a player, both in the United States and Italy, was precisely what young clubs needed to guide them in development. In the same year of his retirement, Alexi was appointed to be the president and general manager of the San Jose Earthquakes, and later to the New York Red Bulls. He served as a vital bridge in one of the most important moments in MLS history. When he began working at the LA Galaxy, the team had terrible form and was finding it difficult to organize the business properly. Alexi has admitted how difficult this period was, but Alexi's arrival signaled a change. He immersed himself in the organization and was rewarded a year later. When he was president from 2006 and 2008, soccer superstar David Beckham was signed, by far the biggest in the league's history. Beckham, though past his prime, was coming straight from Real Madrid. MLS had only barely survived from the brink of bankruptcy just 2 years earlier before a huge growth effort, where 6 new stadiums were built and new foreign investment entered the league. Previously, there had been a salary cap designed to maintain parity and equality between teams. Recognizing that international stars would eventually lift the image and profitability of the MLS, the designated player rule was introduced, which allowed 3 players that would ordinarily be above the salary cap conditions, and Alexi wasn't about to let the opportunity of Beckham's signing to go to waste. Alexi oversaw a logo change to revitalize the club in time for Beckham's arrival and converted it into an international brand. It worked, with unprecedented attention brought to the club, but there were losses along the way. One of them was Alexi Lalas himself, who was fired in 2008. At the same time, his head coach, the former Dutch star Ruud Gullit, resigned. Alexi, however, wasn't finished with soccer yet. He joined the commentary team with ESPN and later with Fox News. These appearances ensured that he remains a personality that newer generations of players are introduced to. Known for his blunt criticism, like of American star Chelsea player Christian Pulisic, who he described as not worth mentioning in 2017. Even if his name isn't familiar, the impact of Alexi Lalas is undeniable. He's one of the founding fathers of modern American soccer. The changes he was part of, from his involvement in the MLS creation in the 1990s to the resurgence of the league in the early 2000s, have had a monumental effect. Eventually, David Beckham, 11 years after joining the MLS and 5 years after retiring, would establish Inter Miami CF. This year, Inter Miami signed by far the biggest name in European football, Lionel Messi, again transforming the image of the league. Alexi acknowledged the huge impact that a name like Messi was having on the MLS, saying that if fans can't find joy in his arrival, then they need to seek help. From struggling to find enough money for operations to signing arguably the greatest player of all time, the MLS has come a long way. It was all kicked off by players like Alexi Lalas, who lent their names and American status to the founding of the MLS.